And we are still waiting for some communication from IB about some subject-specific material, what things that might be modified further for us in actually teaching our courses. But we don't know that yet. So we also are trying to be flexible as IB comes out with more information, and we will pass that on to students as soon as we have new information regarding our classes. But new information comes from the IB periodically as well as they figure out things. And I think the most important thing to remember with IB, I was just talking to Miss Murphy, I think, about this, is that, you know, IB is a worldwide organization, and so they're trying to make modifications and trying to adapt things worldwide, not just for little Newport, Oregon, but it's a worldwide organization. And when they publish new information, they can't publish anything that hasn't gone through a rigorous process through testing. They're like testing boards in the UK and in Europe. And then everything that they put out comes out in 3 languages right off the bat. So it has to be in English, Spanish, and French before it can get published worldwide. So sometimes information takes a little while to get from IB because there's a long process that they go through before they disseminate it out to the world. So if you have questions, I am always available by email. I mean, I haven't been kind of over the summer, but I am happy to answer questions as they come up or if you have concerns. And I think the most important thing in IB, even more so now than usual, but always, is communicate, communicate, communicate. If you have issues in an IB course, you have to communicate with your teacher. If you have concerns or problems that you want to talk to me about, please communicate. I found last year that students who did not communicate with me might have issues that weren't getting resolved, and then they would come and talk to me and we would be able to resolve issues. So we can't resolve issues that we don't know about. And so it's really important that if you have issues or questions that you communicate with us. We can solve almost anything if we talk about it. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. So we have about 5 minutes right now to just answer questions. You can either type them in the chat, or you can, I believe you can unmute yourself to ask questions. And we'll also have more questions at the end of our next session.
Raina, I have a quick question. This is Amy. When is our starting date? Because I've seen a lot of dates, and I would just like to know.
So, and there will be more information coming out from Dr. Gray because there has been a ton of confusion. So we are starting officially September 14th with content. It will be live that day. What we are asking, and we will get communication out to families, is that the 10th and 11th, we're going to be doing technology checks with students so that we are sure that they can log on to their Chromebook, that they have access to their Google Classroom account, so that we try to do any kind of, tech problem solving that Thursday, Friday. But yes, so that information will be clear by Dr. Gray. We are starting the 14th, full on live, going with content.
Thank you. Good to know.
Other questions?
Oh, just a question about how much live content do you anticipate every week? I mean, that's why not really clear to me. Is this going to be, just for the full period, or how's that going to shape out?
So I'll answer that question in regards to IB. It is going to be a little different for our general ed classes. But we have 80-minute periods, and students will do a variety of live full groups, small groups, partner work. And so the minimum would be 45 minutes per period of what you can consider live instruction. But there could be times, specifically in IB, that there may be a particular topic and there's some group work, where the instructor might teach for 10 minutes, do breakout rooms for a few minutes, come back and talk, and then they might give 20 minutes to each student group in a breakout session to work on a particular thing. So our goal is to make school as much like school as possible. And so, you know, especially with those IB classes, it could be more than our regular ed students. We need to make sure that we are ethically, you know, providing a semester's worth of content in a 9-week period. We need to make sure that the students are prepared for their exams. So, you know, as I think our teachers are working really hard, and there's a lot of good professional development coming out in the next couple of weeks for them about how to, you know, not have that fatigue of looking at the screen for that entire time. That's not the purpose, but you know, they might be doing some reading, they might be doing a video and interacting with that, and then coming back to the group. So I don't see any class lecturing for 80 minutes. That's not going to happen. But it could be that you're expected to be doing schoolwork in a variety of ways.
So when do we get schedules and that kind of thing?
So I can't really provide schedules until after we know who's going to the Edmentum program and who's staying here, because we are working on, we are really trying hard to work on cohorting so that if we get the opportunity to come back in hybrid groups, that we can do that. And so we're currently building the schedule. You know, before I built 1 year-long schedule, and now I'm building 4 schedules. So it's actually quite complicated compared to our normal schedule building. But you know, as soon as registration's over, which hopefully people register, you know, by next Friday, then we should be able to start working on that. They will definitely not be ready for registration, but we know students like, you know, and teachers don't know what they're starting the year with either. So, you know, we're trying everything we can to, you know, to get those out to people. We know it's a priority, but I can't really answer that, unfortunately, yet.
I have one more question.
Yeah, please.
So do we need to come in and register if we did everything online? Or?
Nope.
Okay.
Everything can be done online for registration this year. You know, Newport High has been kind of dragging our feet about doing a full online registration for the last 2 or 3 years, because we like to see students' faces. We like to meet the parents and really make that personal connection. But with everything happening, it's just the safest thing for our staff and for our families to be able to do everything online. So it might make it complicated when we start coming back for hybrid. There may be some forms we need to send home, or, you know, whatever happens. But, you know, for right now, you can do everything online. So at this point, I'm going to give one more question if anyone has for IB, and then we're going to start the second session, which is our general parent meeting. Are there any other IB questions right now? Okay, so I am going to start now with the part 2, our general information. Thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. I want to acknowledge that there is a schedule conflict. Another meeting was put at the same time, and I know that is frustrating for families. We will be reviewing Edmentum information during this time, so that if you are forced to choose between the district meeting and our meeting, that you'll get that same condensed version though. We are also recording this, so if you don't want to have your video on, that's totally up to you. I want to start by having our assistant principals just introduce themselves, and then we will start with information.
Hi, I'm Adam Scarborough. I'm assistant principal here at Newport High School and focus a lot on PBIS, the discipline side of things, some of our curriculum, and really just supporting the students and staff. So thank you all for jumping on to be with us this evening.
And I am Lindsay DeVries. I'm also an assistant principal and the athletic director here at Newport High.
Thank you. And they will be monitoring the chat throughout or Mr. Scarberry, I think, is monitoring the chat throughout. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in. We will also have time at the end to ask questions for the group. So I want to just start by acknowledging that spring was really difficult. Spring was difficult for our students and our families. It was really hard on our teachers who have been taught to teach in the classroom and not online. And you know, this quote, just the pandemic teaching of the spring was really not distance learning. It was really crisis teaching. We were under parameters by the state of Oregon not to offer really a lot of new, well, not to offer new curriculum. We were, you know, a lot of parameters around grading and different things like that. So it was really difficult. At the same time, we also had some incredible successes. We were able to do virtual talent shows and yard signs for the seniors, just fun stuff that we would never have tried if we hadn't been put in this situation. And so our hope is that we've learned a lot from the spring and that we can bring the best possible school to students. So at this time, and if you were on the IB meeting, you get to hear it again, but I would like to have one of our teachers, Samantha Murphy, talk a little bit about you know, her hopes for the year.
Am I unmuted now? Okay, thank you, Mrs. Mattson. I'm really excited to be here this evening. I'm really excited for the school year to begin. I have great confidence that the fall is going to look far different than the spring. And even though we would all like to be on campus, and I look forward to that moment when we get to be on campus, I am still very excited. I'm going to share a short anecdote from my Facebook post a few weeks ago that Mrs. Mattson asked me to share. And it relates to a story that I was reminded of about World War II. And that headed into World War II, our military had very few planes available to fight a war. Even though we weren't in the war yet, we had fewer than 10,000 planes available to our military. And President Roosevelt knew that that was not going to be sufficient. It wasn't going to be enough. And he set a goal that our country would build 50,000 airplanes a year for the next 4 years during the course of World War II. And people thought it couldn't be done. They just thought it was an unreasonable goal and we wouldn't achieve it. And the reality is we did achieve it. And in fact, in 1944 alone, we built 100,000 airplanes. And what that story reminded me of is that even when things are difficult, we can do difficult things. We can take what seems to be an unreasonable situation or unbearable situation, and we can turn it into what we need to be. And so I know that there are many unknowns about the school year and that there will be some unexpected twists and turns, but I have great faith and confidence that we're going to be able to make it incredible for your students. And I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you, Mrs. Mattson.
Thank you. The other piece just for, I want to mention that's a big difference from this spring is the technology upgrades that we have experienced over the summer. So currently, and some of this won't, you know, really make sense, but I want to share some of the things that we have. In the spring, we really struggled with Zoom without being able to, or with Google Meets, not being able to do breakout rooms. We will be using Zoom and we'll be able to separate into breakout groups, which will give our students the ability to work in small groups like they typically do in the classroom and then come back into full groups and do presentations and things like that. We will be using a program called Cami. We have video recording equipment, which we did not have in the spring. We will be using the full Google Suite, so we've invested in that program. There's also a lot of other programs that our teachers have been kind of, you know, playing with and learning this summer that we hope will be approved through the district. Things like Padlet and Flipgrid and Pear Deck and Edpuzzle, all kinds of things to make school more engaging for students, ways to really connect them and allow students to be creative and have a little bit more say in the methods that they use. So we're excited about that. Our teachers will be learning a lot in August. So So comprehensive distance learning is really what we're going to focus on a lot tonight, although we will talk about the other programs. And so I want to kind of talk a little bit about what it will look like. We will use CDL for comprehensive distance learning. It is not the driver's license, and so it takes some people a little bit of getting used to, but we will be talking about the comprehensive distance learning offered by Newport High School. We are moving to 4 terms, and so the term, will end, first term will end November 20th, and then the second term February 5th, and then April 9th, and then June 10th for seniors, or June 15th for the rest of our students. Students will take 4 classes per term, and each term classes are worth a semester or 0.50 credit. So with this model, students have the possibility of earning 8 full credits, which is a credit more than the traditional 7-period day where you can earn 7 credits. The bell schedule we're looking at is from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. and that is daily. We're going back to school, so students need to, wake up and attend school daily. So 80-minute periods. On Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, it is synchronous learning. So they will need to be up and logged in and be doing live teaching. And then Wednesdays will be asynchronous learning. So they'll still have material and things to do, but they can do it anytime that day. We'll have 2 periods before lunch and 2 periods after. And we expect for our general courses about 45 minutes of live instruction. Now, live instruction can be a lot of things. It could be full group. It could be breaking out into smaller breakout groups, partner work. They might do an activity and then come back. So it could look different, and it could be longer, but that's kind of what we're estimating is 45 minutes per period for a total of 3 hours per day of really live instruction. Let's see. So course offerings. Courses are going to be very similar. We're offering the same courses we have. There's a few changes. Our AVID program and our leadership really need to be all year long. So we will be doing those in a 0-period model from 8 to 8:40 a.m., 2 to 3 days a week. And that will happen all year. And so that's critical for both programs that they can meet all year. Some courses will be the last 2 terms with the hopes of more hands-on options. So we're not offering Oregon Outdoors first term. It's very hands-on, very active. So we'll be scheduling those the last 2 terms, and we will cross our fingers. Our dual credit classes are still happening. Honors English with Mr. Tice. We are still offering Writing 121 and 122. We're still offering our ECE program, our early childhood education, which is dual credit. At the beginning, they will be doing more coursework because the preschool is not open. So we're adapting, but they're still able to earn college credit through our dual credit option. We also still have our college classes through the early college program. And really my suggestion, if you're interested in the early college program, is to go to their website so that you can look at that. But with the early college program, juniors and seniors can take 1 course per term for free based on a list of courses, which is a lot. There's a lot of options. They can also take more than 1 term, but they do have to pay for that. It is reduced tuition. And currently, Oregon Coast Community College is looking at being fully online this fall. So there's no in-person courses. And that's typically what one of the biggest challenges for our students taking early college is that it doesn't match up with schedules. So you'll have to look, if you're interested in that program, to see if they're having live lectures at particular times or if it's asynchronous learning. But those are different options. And so an example for a student that might want to take English at the college, again, you need 1 credit each year of English, and that is 2 classes that are 3 credits or higher at the community college. but it doesn't have to necessarily just be in English. It could be in English, it could be in writing, it could be in speaking or reading. So there's a little bit of choice there. So it's important to look at that course catalog. There's typically some testing, placement testing, and really talking to the college, working with the school counselors to make sure that you're taking the right courses is really important. We are still offering our CTE program. So we have 2, commercial art with Mr. McEnany, and then our early childhood program with Karina Hargett. We're looking at ways to make some art kits for students to take home so that they can still do that piece. There's a few things that at the very beginning we will not be able to do, like the hydro dipping. But talking to Mr. McEnany, he's hopeful that students can do some of the design work when they're off, and then hoping that we'll eventually get to some limited in-person where a couple of kids come on to do their project. So we're still planning on doing that. We're also still planning on doing band. There are some nationwide safety guidelines that we are working through. And so we're purchasing safety equipment. We're purchasing a mic system so that students, even wearing masks or playing instruments, will still be able to hear the instructor. And we also have a program called Smart Music. The instructor used it some in the spring, but we have a grant thanks to an organization up in Lincoln City. So all of our band students will be able to use this SMART program to record themselves and get feedback from the instructor. And so we will still be offering band. And then we also are offering our full IB diploma and courses. And we had a meeting at 6 to talk about those offerings. It is so important to Newport High School that our freshmen and new students start fresh and right at our school. So we currently, and again, this could change, but we currently have a plan to do a new student and freshman orientation on September 10th and 11th in person. There'd be 3 sessions for freshmen and 1 session for new students. And again, this is an optional program. Some families, will choose not to attend, and that's fine. But for those that want to, a lot of safety guidelines. We're looking at small groups of 5 to 6 students, being on campus 2 to 2.5 hours, socially distanced, mask required. But the goal is for them to actually meet the teachers that they will have first term, and to make sure that they know how to log into those Google Classroom accounts. The 9th graders get brand new Chromebooks that they get to keep for their 4 years of high school. So we need to collect the old ones from the 8th graders and pass out the new Chromebooks, and just a lot of high school information. We're also looking at some goodie bags. We want our freshmen and our new students to feel what it's like to be a Cub. We were really proud of our school, and we want to make sure that they feel that. So look for more information after registration. We'll be inviting the students that sign up for our program for the comprehensive distance learning. So attendance, there's been a lot of attendance questions about comprehensive distance learning and Edmentum. And the guidance just came out on Tuesday. So, this is just me reading the guidance. We'll get specific information. But essentially for both programs, students need to attend daily, just like they would in a regular school. And that is evidenced by them participating in class. Now, just like if your student is sick or you have something and you are excusing your student, we will be providing other opportunities for them to earn that kind of attendance. So, it could be turning in coursework later that evening if they've communicated ahead of time with the teacher, that kind of thing. We know that technology issues will happen and students won't be able to go live. We know that there may be the occasional babysitting where, the younger students are all on Zoom and it doesn't work. So we know that there's going to be things that happen, but the expectation, just like in our regular school days, that students are attending regularly. Mr. Scarberry.
Yeah, one of the things that I oversee are the variances and transfers for our students. what we've done in the past with many of our students coming in with a transfer request, oftentimes students that had been at the middle school, Newport Middle School, and had to renew their variance because they're moving out of the high school. We just do a file review, take a look, and if there's anything that we want to have a conversation about, we request a meeting. That's been past practice. With the current situation we have right now, what we've decided is that we're going to kind of forego those in-person meetings, or in this case, it probably would have been electronically here through a Zoom, and instead extend the contract with the notion that any student who's requesting a variance or transfer that has met the requirements will be coming in. There were letters that have been sent out back in June, another round of letters as well for those that had been told that there was a meeting request. Those should be coming into your mailboxes early next week. So if you have requested a variance and gotten communication or are waiting on some communication, those things should be showing up here shortly. We look forward to your student being a Newport High School Cub. And if you have any questions about that, you can reach out to me. That information is in the letter as well. You can email me. I'm linked through the school webpage, or you can call me here at the school. And my extension is 249. So look forward to having some fresh faces, albeit often probably through Zoom, but we're on to another school year.
Thank you. The next piece that I was hoping to have more information on tonight was new guidance around special programs, students with IEPs, 504s, students that are English language learners or part of our TAG program. And you know, instead of giving inaccurate information, we're going to wait for the official guidance to come out of our district office. I just want to acknowledge how challenging and how sorry that I am that I don't have more information. It is really stressful anyway, and then to not be able to provide information. But we are thinking about students in special programs, and we'll do everything we can to support them. So thank you for being flexible as we wait for official guidance. There have been a lot of questions around school supplies. At least there was on the last meeting that I attended. So just a few things. Our Chromebooks, which are school supplied, that's one of our required Chromebooks. There's been some questions about, can my student use their own device? For most things, they could if they wanted to, but there are going to be some things that only work on the school issued device due to testing. So it's important that everyone has one so that they can use it. But most Chrome or most Google applications can be used from anywhere. If your student is in IB English, either junior or senior year, we do request that students have their own copies of those novels, which is about $30 per year. We do this because it is a college class, and it's really important to learn, how to take notes and use the text and then use them for the exams later on. But we do have scholarships available. We realize that not all students and families can afford to do this. So we will have a process, and Ms. Murphy and Mr. Carlson will be sending out letters after registration once we know exactly who's registered for those classes, so that we can offer that to those that need it. And they'll also have the list of novels so that you can order them. And speaking of a parent who had a student go through the process, it was really helpful for them to have their own books for preparing for that. Students need to have their own note-taking system right now. So most teachers are not going to tell you how to do that, but really knowing yourself as a student, whether that's something that you do online or whether it's something that you do paper pencil, so there could be some supplies there. We also really recommend some form of planner. Organization was one of the things that came up as the biggest struggle in the spring. Managing what classes had things due and all of that kind of stuff. So making sure that students can keep track. And again, that's a personal preference, but really thinking about what students need to be organized. All of this could change later if we go hybrid, because with a hybrid program, it's very difficult to share supplies. And typically your teachers have provided, most of that kind of shared supply. And so right now it isn't an issue. We did receive a grant, so we're hoping to be able to provide some of those shared supplies. But anyway, everything like that could have changed during hybrid time. Ms. DeVries.
Yeah, so just a quick little update about athletics. Once again, like Ms. Matson is saying, it's ever changing, all of this is. So as of now, if your child is an athlete, the OSAA came out with a thing called Season 1, which is kind of like a summer schedule where we can do open gym and all of those things, like with all the different sports. However, we can't do those until our school becomes hybrid. So once kids can start actually going to school, then the district will look at opening up Season 1 and letting kids come in for strength and conditioning workouts. And that, as you can see, the dates, that starts August 31st and then ends December 27th. And then Season 2 starts, which is basketball, swimming, and wrestling. Then Season 3, so each season is only going to be about 7 weeks long of contests. Ms. Matson, do you want to go to the next page? It might be a little easier to, yeah, so this is the schedule. You can find that on OSAA, or actually our wonderful athletic secretary posted that on our website as well. And so you can see, practice is going to be usually about 2 weeks. And then we have 7 weeks of contests. Football goes a little bit longer just because of the intensity that they have to make sure that all the kids have with the heads up and pads and whatnot. So that kind of extends into the Season 4 a little bit. But like I said, Season 2 is basketball, wrestling, and swimming. Season 3, which is, you can see there, starts in March, goes till April, and that is cross country, volleyball, soccer, and football. And then golf, tennis, track, baseball, and softball would start up kind of in mid April and go through June. So we're hoping all of these things work out. We have, at the bottom, you can see we have cheerleading and dance and speech and band, and those all can start August 31st, essentially. But for us at Lincoln County, those can't start until we actually get into Phase 2 and our schools are all in hybrid. So just to help us out in the athletic department, Kenna made a questionnaire that we posted on our website, at the high school website. So, and I'm actually going to post the link here in the chat too, if you would like to, if that would be easier for you. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email me or call me, or email Kenna Johnson or call her too. It's just kind of, it's ever changing. So we kind of never really know what is actually happening. I mean, we get a lot of updates from OSAA probably almost every 2 weeks. So as those updates come and those changes come, we will definitely keep everybody updated and posted on social media and whatnot. But until then, if you guys have any questions or anything, please let us know.
Thank you.
Yep.
So the next part, I just want to talk about kind of the different types of programs for school, because there's a lot of confusion about what is available to families. So comprehensive distance learning, again, we're calling it CDL, is as close to traditional school as possible. And we have several charts that we'll go over. Edmentum, we've been doing Edmentum at the high school level for several years. It is our e-learning program. If you've had any students in that, we also use it for credit recovery. So we're really used to that program and have used it for a while. Karen Seifert oversees that piece. And really it's an independent study program. So there's no teacher on the other end, for help. It's really a student who is self-guided and who can work through that program. There's also homeschool. I have the link here for the homeschool page. If you have a high school student, it is critical that you work with the counselor before you choose this option because it has a lot of impact on graduation and other things. So just know that piece up front. The other option, which is not an option for us right now, is something called a virtual public charter school. And there's several of those in the state, but the state of Oregon has set out guidelines or through this, it's actually, I think, a state law that says only 3% of any given district students can attend, and we have already met our 3% cap. So all students that are applying for virtual public charter schools are being denied right now. And I'd encourage you, if you are one of those families that have been denied, to have a conversation with one of us and just talk about some of your options so that you know what's available. So again, on the top, you can see the 3 different programs I'm going to talk about. And then on the side, different activities. So the first one is the Chromebook that's available for CDL and Edmentum, but it is not available for homeschool. There was questions about meals. That's the delivery on the bus. That's again available with the first 2 options, not with homeschool. Participation in athletics. So the first two categories you can participate in athletics. The homeschool one's really much more complicated because it has to do with your residency. So we might have a student that lives in Siletz that attends Newport High School and they can participate in athletics through Newport High School. But if you go homeschool and live outside of our residency area, you can't participate in sports with us. You would have to participate with your home school. So with the CDL, you have access to all of our amazing NHS teachers for support. So if you're a student struggling in class, they're available. They will be on, that entire 80 minutes, even if there's not live instruction to help answer questions. We'll have time on Wednesdays where they can get more help. And so, comprehensive distance learning is the only way to access our teachers. Edmentum, what it sounds like they're doing is for every subject area, and this is for 6th through 12th grade, say for social studies, they'll have 1 hour a week with that teacher of record, so that social studies teacher, to give support to any student that needs it. But it's at a very specific time, and it is for all subjects in that, like in social studies and for grades 6 through 12. So there could be a big need there, and it's going to be very limited office hours. Both CDL and Edmentum students participate in our graduation ceremony, assuming that they meet all graduation requirements. The students in the Edmentum program are our students, no different than when we had the alternative school before that used this program. Homeschool students do not participate in our ceremony. Our school counselors will be available for students in comprehensive distance learning. They're also available for Edmentum students, mostly to help place students so that they're on track for graduation. Students in homeschool do not have access to our staff. Our Aspire Center for helping with college scholarships and applications is available for both CDL and Edmentum, not for homeschool students. We have a lot of specific NHS scholarships that really both CDL and Edmentum students can qualify for. I would say, though, my caution is that if you choose to be part of the Edmentum program, it's going to be a little bit harder for you to get that information because our senior teachers do a lot of sharing of information. And so students in the Edmentum program are going to have to be really proactive if they're going to access that information. You can see there, school-based health center, FAFSA for all 3. IEP and 504, the first 2 options are provided by the school, by our teacher. So even if you're in the Edmentum program, if you are on an IEP, you will be getting services from our teacher. If you're part of the homeschool, you will be receiving services through Lynn Benton Lincoln ESD. The IB diploma is only available through comprehensive distance learning. Honors diploma is available through both comprehensive distance learning and Edmentum, but again, there's only about 4 options for advanced coursework on Edmentum. So it's going to be very challenging for students to meet the honor diploma requirements unless they already have most of their honor courses complete. We have the Gear Up grant on campus, and that's available through comprehensive distance learning. And then we have on-campus activities, hopefully starting at some point. And again, both comprehensive distance learning and Edmentum students are able to participate in those. Homeschool, if you live in the Newport area, you can participate in a few of those options, but it's pretty limited. Our HELP program, our homeless program, is available to both CDL and Edmentum, not for homeschool. The prerequisite coursework for IB, most of our IB courses have prerequisites that are offered only through comprehensive distance learning. There are a few challenge test opportunities for students coming in that don't have the coursework, but it's definitely an extra step. There's been a lot of information or questions out there about online time. With comprehensive distance learning, you will see a variety of activities. We have some textbooks that we'll be sending home, some novels, so there will be times when students are not on screen and actually doing some physical books. That's not the case with Edmentum. Everything is going to be online for that program. And homeschool, it really depends on the program. Grading, and this is a huge difference for Newport High School, grading for comprehensive distance learning will be A through D as passing, and then F for failing. And so we have not had Ds at Newport High School for years, so that's a big change. With the Edmentum online, it is an A through C for passing. So anything below that 70% would be considered failing. There are foreign language opportunities, both with comprehensive distance learning and Edmentum. The Edmentum foreign language is very challenging, so we encourage you only to do that if you have someone in the home or nearby that you can practice with, because you don't have that instant feedback that you get in a classroom. So you could be mispronouncing something for a week before you find out that it's wrong. So really important to have that connection and support for that. So looking at just ahead, and we don't know when this is going to happen, but we have a lot of safety upgrades. You cannot blink without seeing hand sanitizer stations. We're super lucky at Newport High School. All but I think 2 of our classrooms have hand washing sinks. They have sinks for hand washing. The new guidance does require masks for all students and staff. And then we've also installed a lot of plastic barriers for additional support. We've also kind of designed our hallways and classrooms for one way so that we don't have any mixing of students. We're hoping that we can have kind of a slow start with limited in-person so that we can have some office hours, some extra services. We have things that just are better in person. So there are metrics. If you look on the Oregon Health Authority's website, or if you go on to Oregon Department of Education, that we need to meet. And I'm not going over that in detail today. Last week was a rough week for Lincoln County, but the 3 weeks before that, we would have met the metrics for limited in person. So our hope is that we can have our county, doing well by the time school starts so that we can bring students in for limited time. The limited in-person has a much higher metrics. So it's 30 per 100,000 versus bringing students back into a hybrid setting, which has a limit of 10 per 100,000. So we're much more likely to meet the limited in-person than we are right away for that hybrid piece. Our hope, though, is eventually to move to hybrid. So just a little bit about what that looks like. Students would come, it would be in small groups of cohorts, about 15 students, attending the same 4 classes, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, with the hope, if possible, for the teacher to move. It is possible that we might have to have students move depending on the course, but those students would stay together. They'd have breakfast and lunch in the classroom together so that we can really avoid any mixing of cohorts. So what that looks like is a class of approximately 30 students would be split for A and B days. And that's how we get that 15-ish students per cohort. Cohort A would attend Monday and Thursday in person. Cohort B would attend Tuesday, Friday, and the rest of the days would be all online asynchronous work. All right, so we are now at the point where we will answer questions. I know that there has been, there's been some questions in the chat box. So if there's anything, Mr. Scarberry, that you want to talk about right at the beginning, otherwise we can open it up for people to have questions.
I think all the stuff in the chat box has been addressed. So I think, yeah, if we just open it up, if there are questions from anybody out there right now.
Hi.
Go ahead, Ms. Kirchner.
Hi, I am wondering if there is any outlook for college placement tests and how we might go about getting those done.
You're talking about SAT and ACT?
Yep.
Okay, so as I said, things are changing daily. So I think, I had emailed Amy Thompson last week and gave some information, and that's already changed. So it sounds like what we are going to be doing is offering for our seniors, we will be offering vouchers to take an SAT or ACT test on the weekend. That those tests, if we're allowed to have them on campus, will occur on campus. Otherwise, they will happen at Oregon Coast Community College. Their rules are very different as far as letting students on campus. And so we'll work with our partnership with them to get space. We in Newport, we offer the SAT and ACT in October. And so you sign up for those the same way you would normally by going onto their websites. I've asked for the process for how to get those vouchers and hope to have that information next week. There will also be an opportunity in March for all juniors to take the SAT on campus, and seniors that want to do that will have that opportunity. It's just going to be probably not as relevant at that point, because by March, most of the college applications and scholarship applications are done. So that's the information we have at this time. And we are still intending to give those tests. Melinda Dye and Kendall Mulholland typically oversee those, and it's not actually through Newport High School. We just offer it as a site, and so those programs at this point are still able to happen on the weekends. Most of the colleges around the country, and Dr. Roller can talk about this too if she wants, are really waiving a lot of those. So it's important to actually go on and see the colleges that you're interested in, see what their requirements are, because they'll be different for this year. Amy, did you have a question? I know you.
Yeah, it's along, it was about the testing, but also like Aspire services. Will we need those SAT or ACT scores for scholarships? Just that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So there's one scholarship for sure that asks for it, although, they may change their requirement by then. But most of our local scholarships don't require it, they suggest it. We are still planning on having an Aspire Center, but at the beginning it will be virtual. So Ms. Dye is going to learn some technology and learn how to do Zoom and have breakout groups, because she does need to supervise the group since they're volunteers that are coming in. And so students will still be able to access their mentors. We'll be doing a lot of training for all of our mentors, because many of them don't have that technology piece. And so, yes, it is our intention that we provide services for our seniors around college and career. We're working on a lot of plans for, some welcome back stuff for seniors. So we have some fun stuff in the works. Our counselors have been working really hard to get some of that stuff going. So more to come on that, but definitely we will be supporting students through that. We also hope to still do college application week, just virtually if we're not here, which is one of our favorite weeks during the school year for seniors. So yeah, it'll just be, it'll be a little different. There was a question about the technology checkup, and I probably skimmed right over that. So school for Newport High School, well, for all secondary buildings, will start September 14th. And that has been very confusing. So I apologize to parents out there. And Dr. Gray will be addressing that in her next community letter. But we are starting content right away on the 14th. On the 10th and the 11th, we need to make sure that all students can have access. So they will need to check in, and we haven't figured out all the details yet, but they need to be able to check in so that we know that Zoom works and that they can access Google Classroom, that they know how that works. You know, we had some students in the spring that didn't realize that there was the difference between Stream, which I find very confusing on Google Classroom, and the coursework, which, you know, really organizes it for them. So we'll walk them through a lot of that stuff. Our hope is that we can streamline it so that they only have to meet with one teacher between those 2 days, just to make sure they can get into everything. But that's really what it's for. You know, if their Chromebook broke over the summer that they have, that we can get them in and get a loaner device, you know, anything like that. Hopefully that helped a little bit. What other questions do you have? So if your student is a ninth grader or a new student, then they will come to school during one of those 2 orientation days on the 10th or the 11th, and they will receive their new Chromebook, and they'll turn in their old one. If your student is in 10th through 12th grade, they should already have their Chromebook. Most students kept them over the summer. If you happen to turn it in, we did have a few students turn it in, then we will need to have you come in on either the 10th or the 11th to get your Chromebook again. And Karen Seifert will be running that, and we will send out information on our website. We also will send out a lot of information to your students' district emails. So we really encourage you, that is super critical, that your students learn how to check their district emails. So no, that's what I was trying to say. Sorry if it wasn't clear. They will have instruction starting September 14th. So full content will start that day. If you have an elementary age student, they'll still have instruction during those 2 weeks, but they probably won't be live, because the idea at the elementary school is to have individual family meetings with every single student. And that's going to take a while to do those. And so that's why the information was so confusing that was put out there, between the different programs. But but they'll still have instruction. It just won't be necessarily live all the time like it would be. But for the high school and I believe the middle school, it will be September 14th. We're on school. So Link Crew is our orientation program. Right now, we do not have permission to bring our Link Crew leaders on campus for orientation. Our fingers are crossed that happens. And so if that is able to happen, we would bring in our Link Crew leaders an hour or so before freshman orientation starts, and we would kind of do a small training for them, and then they would join the teacher groups that will be going around. We love having our students lead those activities. We just don't know if we will be allowed to have any limited in person. And again, that has to do with the county metrics. So fingers crossed, wear masks so that we can, we can get back into school. But as of right now, we don't have that clearance. Trying to read that question. So with shortened terms, but longer class periods, it's equivalent to the same number of instructional hours. And so, you know, it's going to be a challenge, especially for our teachers who have never taught on a block schedule. So we need to really provide a lot of professional development about what it looks like. Schools like Crescent Valley and Corvallis School District, they've done the block scheduling before. A lot of students actually have done, or a lot of schools have done block scheduling before, where it's 90-minute or 80-minute periods, you know, with those half-an-hour pieces. And so, or terms anyway, so we know that it's possible to get the content in, but we know it is going to be challenging. Sorry, I'm trying to read this, Brandy. So you're actually only losing 2 days of instruction, 3 days maybe. In a typical school year, the only students that come onto campus that first week or that first day on Tuesday would be freshmen and new students. And so Wednesday is typically our first 3 days lessons. And so students, you know, really are only losing 2 days of instructional time with starting September 4th. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I can try to read it and see a little bit more what you're saying. Yes, orientation is the 10th and the 11th of September, and it will be just one session. So you won't attend both days. You'll either attend a morning or an afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Scarberry, for answering the medical piece. What else can we help with? All right, if there's nothing else, please register if you haven't. Regardless of your program, it's so important for us, in order for us to build our schedules, to know who is attending our school versus Edmentum. So we'd like to get started on that and really need to have students register. Schedules, we can't even really start building the schedule until registration is complete and we know who is coming. So, and it's pretty complicated because of the cohorting. We need to be really careful. And so, you know, we know this, I mean, staff feels the same way. We all want to know what our student schedules are, and the teachers want to know what they're teaching. So we're doing the best that we can to get that information out to you. And as soon as we know, we will send information out. So the question is about moving from comprehensive distance learning to hybrid. And the question about going from 4 days a week synchronous to 2 days a week. There are some possibilities that some teachers may still do 4 days a week, but 2 of those days students would be logging on from home. It's really going to depend on the content and how easy it is to have a group come in live. So, you know, I don't know the answer to your question, Louise. We are still working on that. Our goal is to provide the best education we can. And so, you know, teachers will be exploring different options. I imagine it'll be a little bit of both. And the switch will only be at the term. So we will not move from a distance learning to a hybrid in the middle of our first term. What hopefully will happen is that we transition to limited in-person so that we can have some small groups. If a student has questions, hopefully they can come on campus and actually meet, you know, with the instructor in person instead of online. So that could happen, fingers crossed, if we meet the metrics during the first term for those that want that experience, but it would not be in the middle that we go hybrid. There's a lot of questions about, you know, if I commit to distance learning, to comprehensive distance learning now, but I don't want my student to go hybrid when that happens, can I switch to Edmentum, or will there be another option? we will have 9 weeks to figure that out, but we will for sure figure something out. So yes, you could move to Edmentum. We know that that's possible. But again, we know that students will have the most success staying with our instructors. And so, you know, we will be working hard to develop programs within our school to meet all of those needs. The reason that Wednesdays are asynchronous is because Wednesdays are the days that we are really doing a lot of our professional development and we're developing the content. So, you know, with the way that our model's moving, our teachers have a lot less preparation time. And so a lot of that has happened on Wednesday. So they will be working really hard on that for those. And we also need to build in that intervention time. And it looks like Mr. Scarborough talked about that. And then when we move to hybrid, we do have to have a day to do really deep cleaning. So that's kind of the reason around that. So any last things for the group? All right, thank you guys so much. We will post this for those that need it, and our emails were in the chat, so feel free to email us.